Andrew, how are you, my friend?
I'm here for now. Not drafted.
I think, therefore, I am.
Yeah.
It's very philosophical of you.
I'm deep.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time with me this evening here.
Likewise, friend.
Yeah. We started a podcast, I guess, 3 years ago, and you were my first guest at the time, and I did a couple episodes and then stopped doing it, and then procrastinated for 3 years. I had a global pandemic into that when everyone started a podcast, and
True.
the other day I was just like, you know what? For the first time in my life, I'm not going to have a plan. And I called you and said, "Hey, let's do this again." I felt like it was the right thing to have you be the sort of first guest in my effort to bring this back, since you were the first one last time. So I appreciate your willingness. I know you've been quite busy in the podcast realm these days, so I appreciate you fitting me in.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I assume you're drinking something. I usually start with that.
Yeah, you assume correct.
I shouldn't, but what do we got? Is it Chianti like last time?
Yeah, I'm drinking wine. I'm trying to chill out on the beer for whatever reason. So yeah, I'm doing wine.
That's cool. I have a RJ Rocker's Bell Ringer, a brewery out of Spartanburg, South Carolina, that my wife introduced me to. Double Pale Ale. This is all I drink now.
So nasty.
You know, Cragen's always walking around with like a Miller Lite or something, and I can only drink a Double Pale Ale, apparently. Not that I'm cool. Like, I don't know anything. I don't even know what that means. But it's what it says.
It means you got suckered, is what it means. You got suckered into buying that.
If it's higher alcohol volume, I can drink less, so I consume less calories, but get the effect that I'm desiring.
I think that's fair. I also think that if you're signing up for IPA or anything of that variety, you're basically just saying, like, all right, I'm going to drink a sandwich. You know, it's just so
That's
heavy.
Fair. That's fair.
You know, whereas like the piss beer, say whatever you want about it, you can knock back 4 of them and have a good time, and I don't feel quite as gross.
I remember when I had my first gluten-free beer.
Didn't know that was a thing. That's
it's
cool.
a thing, yeah, and it was years ago. I must have been like 22, so this is like early on in my drinking years. It was one of the managers at the company I worked for at the time had like a gluten intolerance, and he was like, "Oh, have you ever had gluten-free beer?" I'm like, "No." So he recommends this brand that was pretty much available everywhere. I think it was owned by like Budweiser or something, or Anheuser-Busch or whatever. And he was like, "Go try some." Like, I'm just curious to your point of view on it. And but he warned me. He was like, "You're gonna drink a few and be like, oh, this is like water." But apparently, something with the gluten. I'm not a chemist in any way, as you know, or whatever that word would be. But I guess there was some delayed effect. I know, like caffeine does a delayed effect sometimes. Like with the Jaeger bombs, I've made that mistake in my college years. Of like, this isn't bad. I can do 4 or 5 of these, and then like the delayed effect from caffeine then just hits you. It was a similar situation. So you're drinking like 4 or 5 of these beers, you don't feel full, you don't feel really anything, and then it just hits you. I guess something with the gluten does that, but I don't know. I'm not. I guess there's some people we could ask that we know are true beer people. But if you ever drink a gluten-free beer, remember that there will be a delayed effect, alleged delay.
Alleged.
Effect. Yeah.
Okay, well that's good to know. Yeah, I wouldn't know either, man. I'm no big city chemist.
Big city chemist. Go Dogs.
Yeah, it's our year. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Dog.
Oh man, it's so bad. So it's been 3 or 4 years since I've talked to you formally in a recorded atmosphere with subpoena power. I saw you less than 12 hours ago, so it's okay. What's been going on in your world? I know you're back in school. Give me a personal update before we kind of jump into some targeted musical endeavors.
Personal update. I haven't been employed since fucking July of last year. School sucks shit. Science is hard. And I really am listening to Coheed and Cambria right now for whatever reason, and I'm about to get drafted. So, yeah.
Man, what a fucked up situation the past real 48 hours have been.
Coheed and Cambria does.
Coheed does that. I'm not one to speak usually around politics. You know my political beliefs, and I tend to keep them more to myself. But man, I mean, I've been listening to nothing but Anti-Flag the past 72 hours just because
man,
I can't believe what's happening.
There's 2 times in my life, and this is one of those 2 times where I've been glued to like the 24-hour news cycle, not for fear of like, shit, I actually will be drafted tomorrow, but this is like fascinating to me. I don't know. I mean, not necessarily in a good way. It's just like, holy shit, like this is actually happening,
Yeah. Like it's real. It's not even like a joke.
Nope. Like World War III is very plausible currently.
It's really strange, and it makes you really wonder. I've talked to you about this before. I'm not against conspiracy things or whatever, unless it goes against logic or science. So that's why this pandemic's been really tough for me. I'm all on the alien kick. I'm all about that. But once you start like denying the basics of science, like things that they taught us in like elementary school science, that's when you lose me. So I tend to be interested in conspiracies, but once it defies logic or science or the basics of statistics, things like that, I really get lost in like, no, it's the deductive reasoning in me. I can't get away from that. Although sometimes I wish I could, just for my own mental health. But this is just some scary things, and I feel really bad for the people that are impacted by this on both sides, because it's not really a country to country conflict. It's a person to country conflict, and we know a little bit about that here in the United States of America. So it's
really weird, man, being in a position of like normally when this kind of stuff happens, it's the U.S. doing the bullying and the pushing around, and for better or for worse, here we have the freedom to be super, super critical and open about our distaste for what our government is doing in other parts of the world. And I think this is the first time in my life, like really, where I'm like, yo, fuck what that other country's doing. You know what I mean? Because we're usually that guy. So it's a bizarre feeling for sure.
My wife and I watched a lot of Saturday Night Live throughout like the pandemic, sort of. And it does give you that appreciation of kind of what you just said. Like, no matter kind of what side they make fun of everybody. I think that's really fair. It gives you that appreciation of like, we can do that and not really be worried about getting assassinated or poisoned or kidnapped. Mm-hmm. And so no matter kind of what side you're on, I think that appreciation is something that we should always remember. A lot of people have died for that ability for us to kind of have that. And I think that's a good point that you made. So this got depressing fast. I mean, we're not even like getting into
and also, I'll be clear. This shit is 70 years in the making, and the U.S. is largely indirectly responsible for what's going on right now. So I'm not trying to say we're like Boy Scouts in the situation. I'm just saying, for this brief moment in time, I'm like, yo, homie, you shouldn't be fucking with those people. And for a change, we're not the ones doing it.
I will end with a important philosophical term that I learned in college, which was to exist means to suffer.
To play punk rock is to suffer, but that's a whole other issue.
Perfect segue. Perfect segue. So I know we're recording this about 2 weeks out from arguably the busiest week that you guys have ever had as a band. The Carolyn, not the Caroline, for those wondering, the Carolyn. I
don't think people really wonder. It's either you just you say it right or you assume incorrectly.
That's fair. I mean, I don't have an issue with it. I think it's. I've heard it so many times at this point over, I guess, what we've known each other now almost a half decade or a little bit more. I've heard the Caroline so many times, but it's funny. The last podcast you were on, I appreciate that. It was more of a question as to how to pronounce the name versus the assumption.
Sure.
And when you told the story of how the name came to be, I really chuckled because I can remember where I was standing when you called me and told me through that, and you were like, "Yeah, I was kind of pressured to come up with a name." I'm like, "Yeah, that was me." So I do remember where I was standing when you called me, and you're like, "Department complex thing." You're telling me all that, and I was like, "Yeah, I dig the
Yeah,
name."
so, but this ties back to the Russia thing. Like, I'm Russia. I made the shitty decision, and then, like, you're the U.S. You kind of, like, made me do it.
Wow.
Anyway.
I at least appreciate that I'm the U.S. in that analogy.
Sure, man. I look kind of Russian. I got weird cheekbones. Not
Wow.
weird, but distinct.
Wow.
People assume I'm from that part of the world.
Oh. So. I'm not cultured enough to understand that. But
me neither. People just say it to me, and I regurgitate it on podcasts.
Could be worse. So, yeah, a lot of things happening in the next couple weeks. So we're going to talk a lot about now. None of that's really happened yet, but you and I kind of know what's happening. A new record has been made. It is coming out on June 10th. And it's coming out on 2 record labels, which is really cool. I happen to run one, so yeah. I know a little bit about that. And a lot of things are going to be rolled out the week of March 9th. So I'm really excited for you, and I wanted to chat a little bit about some of those things today. So tell me, it's awkward for me because I produced the record, I mixed the record, mastered most of it.
And you know all the answers to the questions you're about to ask.
And know all the answers to the question I'm about to ask. So I'm going to try my best to keep my mouth shut and interject but so tell me about the record. What's it called? What's going on? How do you feel about it now that you know it's coming out, where it's coming out, how it's coming out? Give me like an introduction to this record that I know all about.
Okay. I'll do my very best to keep it succinct. Basically, we have LP2 coming out on the date you just mentioned, on 2 record labels, one of which you own, and then on Gunner Records in Germany. The record is called Rhythm of My Own Decay, which there's a semi-story behind that. That we'll probably get into later. But yeah, man, it's super, super brief. It's 8 songs. I don't even know if it makes the 16-minute mark. I think it barely does.
I think it hits it in like the iTunes tracker. No, I'm pretty sure you hit like 1602 when I did the vinyl split.
Yeah, but you got to account for like sustains and shit like that, like dead air. So you can make the argument that it's not even that long. And basically, I think it's every band like wants to like up their game when it comes to their writing, right? But I think we really just adopted this whole notion of like 0 fat in any song ever, like especially in a post TikTok era, like maybe one song verges on like 3 minutes. Basically, we're just like trying to be pornography for the listener's ears. Like no bullshit. Like here's your hook and catchy all the time. More so than the last record. So that was kind of the vibe. I would argue it's definitely darker than the last 2 releases, but in a kind of like devil may care kind of way, kind of like poking fun at it a little bit. So yeah, I don't really know where else I should go from there.
No,
I appreciate the overview for the record.
You did good. Yeah, no, Rhythm of My Own Decay. So for me, again, selfishly, run the label, produced the record, mixed the record, mastered most of it, worked with you through the demo process. So I know these songs almost. I remember you made a comment when we were starting drums or something, like day 1. I was like singing something. You're like, these songs better than I do.
It's probably still the case, honestly.
It's probably still
if you've ever watched any of my like live streams, you know that that's the case.
I asked the bands to send me demos, and people kind of look at me weird, and I'm like, it's kind of important for the producer to know what you're about to record, but what do I know?
Who gives you shit on that? That's like the good part.
It's not necessarily giving me shit. It's more of the lack of urgency around it, or not understanding maybe why one is asking.
I got you.
But
so like why just a solo voice memo that you can barely understand suffices? Like, why do you need more than this? Mm.
And why the kick and snare matter? You know, the little things.
Oh God, we're not even going to go down that rabbit hole right now.
That was not, because I know he's listening. That was not a shot at Dave in any way, shape, or form. It was just it was an objective fact about music. But you know, I like getting involved. And it helps me. You know, I'm a sound guy, right? I like to make. It's my job not to tell you that your songs suck, though I will. It's my job to take.
And you'll just say you suck and your face is ugly.
No, why have to
the
get
South
into the? I
sucks.
don't do personal shots.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Like rewrite the chorus, rewrite this. This is not very good. Don't suck. This sucks. That kind of stuff. You know, but it's important because I think the way people interact with the song. I'll change my opinion on this like 50,000 times over the next 10 years and have for the previous 10 years. But the way the song is presented does matter. Maybe not as much as the song. The melody, the song, the structure, the words, what you're conveying really matters. You could have a great song that sounds like utter dog shit, and it's still a great song. The recording doesn't make the song great, in my opinion. And the reason I make that argument is if you look back through time, though I think records sound better pre-Pro Tools, some in this world, I guess we'll define it the TikTok era since you've defined that for me. Don't know what that sound, maybe don't know what analog sounds like or what it was like when you were recorded to an 8-track or even a 4-track, you know, back in the day. So what sounds good is very relevant to the time period you're in. I think records that were recorded in the 90s are the greatest records ever made and sounded. But, you know, my mom would be like, you're crazy. Like, come back to the 60s with me for a second, you know, or whatever. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, especially when it comes to musicianship. I can edit things now in the computer that John Lennon never had the ability to do, right? You actually had to be able to perform your song and sing it really, really well. So it's interesting how there is a subjectivity to it, but I think it is my job as a producer to sort of bring those songs to life in a way that best represents the track, whether or not you, the artist, agree with me on that. I think that's kind of a producer's job, is to say, hey, you've done something really cool. This is probably the best way to bring it to life, which is why there's so many producers in the world, and usually, you know, artists get to choose, right? And you and I have worked together for a long time, but whether you went to, you know, another producer or whatever, like that would sort of be your kind of decision criteria, right? Hey, like I want to bring this to life, and this person has done previous records that either bring vibes or sounds or structures that make a lot of sense to me, to the band, to kind of what I'm trying to achieve with this record. I feel we did a good job on this record doing that. I think you and I kind of had a conversation early on about what we wanted to do and what we didn't want to do with this record. I agree there was a lot of trimming of things. I was almost taken back. Well, it's funny, when you sent me the demos, you kept like a minute of like dead space at the end of every song. So I'm like, he told me these songs were short. What the fuck? But when you listen to the songs, I was almost taken back at first at how short they were. Some of them, not all of them. And I don't mean that in a negative way, just more of like, okay, now I see what he meant, but I got it right away. There wasn't a time where I'm like, I wish there was a solo here, or I wish there was more here. You really set out to be like, hey, this is the best effort I have, and I want to give the listener the best that I have. And knowing that we live in a world where attention spans are, you know, less than 5 seconds, algorithms work against us, you really tried to modernize punk rock in a way that I think people will respect, that truly understand what you were trying to do. Does that make any sense to you? Like,
it does.
Am I on to something with this? Am I crazy?
No, you're not. But I think it does, like, maybe not on like your behalf, but it's definitely implying that I know a lot more about what I'm doing than I really do. You know what I mean? Like, I do think there was a conscious decision to make the songs as succinct as possible and not wear out your welcome. I think that's the thing. Just because, like you said, attention spans are so fucking short. but I don't know if I like uttered those words out loud or said them to myself. I think it's just this like in my DNA now to be like, homie, this doesn't need 3 choruses. This doesn't need a fucking bridge. This doesn't need an intro. You know what I mean? Like, just get to the point. Make if okay, I guess my criteria for songwriting now is if you're not going to make every aspect of the song, the chorus, like a hook, so to speak, make it all like a gem. You know, some artist structures are really weird. Some songs don't even have a chorus, but there are like gems. And a band that's really fucking good at that I just discovered that we can talk about later is a band called Tired Radio from Brooklyn. They have some gems, and they'll give you like 20 seconds, not even, maybe even 10 to 15 seconds of a part of a song that is like, this is the catchiest fucking thing I've ever heard, and then they take it away from you. They don't like make a meal out of it. They don't let you enjoy it again and again and again. And it sounds really counterintuitive, but it makes you play the song over and again, and it makes you want to keep like dissecting what they fucking did. And so that's sort of like the ethos, so to speak, I think, with this band, if there is one. But again, dude, I'm a mess, and I like sometimes throw darts at a map until something kind of works.
No, and I appreciate that. I think it's healthy that you're saying like, here's why I did it. You and I could spend 5 hours talking about the how. But you're also humble enough to say, I could have been wrong.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Very much.
I don't think you were. I think the record's great, but that doesn't really mean I invested in it. Like, I put the record out. We've been working. Our opinion doesn't sort of matter. What I will say is, a lot of folks we've sent it to have agreed. So I think that's really cool. I think with the first record, this will be to make things right. Really cool LP, and Keepsake, the EP before that, and even going back to the original demos, you know, Cragen, we owe Cragen, right? He introduced us, as much as it pains me to say that I owe Cragen something. He did introduce us. He was there from day one when I said, hey, I'm fucking crazy. Let's start a record label. Let's use real guitar amps. Let's figure this out. Let's use tube amps, you know, in this modern world. Like, who the fuck thought that was a good idea, right? So
we're still asking that question.
We're still asking that question, and we still have tube amps here in the studio. I don't have the Kemper yet, keyword yet, so I can change my mind without you know, committing perjury or whatever it's called. So it's a lot has happened since then. I know you well. We're good friends. You're one of my best friends. So I know about your life. I know about your family. I know about things that have happened to you. You know about my life, my family, the things that have happened to me. But there was almost a teenage angstiness to a lot of the early stuff, which makes sense. You wrote half those songs when you were in high school and then early college years, right? And then we recorded the first EP right when you were graduating college and you were kind of in graduate school at the time. So now I kind of see this. We worked on this record for like 2 fucking years, man, this new record. So it was a lot of time. And what I would say is you didn't lose the really good things about that sort of teenaged angstiness. But you brought it with a more mature lens. You brought it with this lens of like, all right, now I've got a little life under my belt. I've had the wins. I've had the losses. This is what I have to say. And an important point to make is you've let someone else in, because this is very much Ollie's record too. There is,
if not more so.
If not more so. It's almost like Ollie appears more on the album, whether it's not necessarily vocally, but I know kind of what parts maybe he wrote or had more influence, obviously, than others because I produced the record. But there, you let someone else in, even more so, and I don't mean this in a mean way, than you've let me in at times. So walk me through that. Like, what about this allowed you to kind of open that door, let someone else in, and how did it work? Like, how did it make you feel? Were you nervous? Were you confident? Were you excited? I'm curious to how you guys wrote this record, and bring Dave into this too. I mean, drums are a part of it. How did you write this record differently than the previous releases?
There's a lot to unpack with a lot of what you just said. Well, like the short answer for how we wrote it, differently is, with majority material on LP1, the band was still very much a solo project. It was almost as like as that track listing was like being developed or whatever, you threw another person into the mix, which is probably explains why there wasn't as much of that person if there's this like predetermined sort of like roadmap, if you will. You know what I mean? It was almost like, this segmented process initially where like, okay, these are my songs, these are yours. We'll input our opinions when necessary, but like you have your silo, I have mine kind of thing. And, like it's not like that was a conscious decision. It was just like, that's the way it fucking was. But, even in that short period of time, like I think us two just working together as friends and as songwriters, I hate to say like, he like proved himself or something like that, because that implies that like you got something to prove to me, and that's just like not what I mean at all. But it was like made very clear to me from like the release of LP1 till now that like, oh, me, Ollie and I are like cut from the same cloth. And I think if I feel that way about another person, like regardless of what we're talking about, music, like my ability to like open up to them or whatever is exponentially easier. And when I say like we're cut from the same cloth, it's like almost all the influences are the same. And if there's like a reference to something musically, like I don't have to explain it. Like, oh, okay, there's this band from this era, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh yeah, of course I know that record. They're like one of my favorite bands too. And so long story short, like we just have really, really similar inspirations. And also, like as simplistic as it sounds, I'm just a fucking fan of his lyrics and melodies, dude. Like that's just what it comes down to. Like even if I wasn't, playing in a band with him, I'd just be like, dude, this kid's awesome. And that's just the honest truth. Now, does that mean like I love everything he sends me? Absolutely fucking not. I definitely know it's the likewise, like everything I send him, he's probably like, it's all right, or a lot of things I send him anyway. But yeah, dude, I think there was no conscious decision this go around to say, okay, now like here's your shot, or like we're going to be more collaborative because that's what's, that's going to yield better songs. It just so happened to be we collaborated and it yielded better songs. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that was the answer you're looking for, but that's just kind of how it happened.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I think that's, I've always, when there's band, when you listen to a band, you don't always know who the songwriters were, especially pre-streaming. Now there's credits. You can actually go on Spotify or whatever, or whoever the fucking flavor of the week is, and look at credits and see who wrote something and all the people, the 15 people that wrote a song now. We didn't have that luxury back in the day when just listening to music, you would have to open up the record or the CD or the cassette and look at the liner notes for crediting, right? And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with working with outside songwriters or anything like that. That wasn't the point of that. Just saying it's more publicly available. That information is more publicly available now than it ever has been because of the internet and streaming. But like back when we didn't know that, I always thought it was interesting when I think about bands with multiple singers, right? So in our genre, Blink, Alkaline Trio, the Lawrence Arms, Taking Back Sunday, and the list goes on. Those are just a few that came to my head right away. Whose song is who? Who is what? It was interesting. And does Mark just write the songs, or does Tom just write the songs? And where does Travis come into play, or where did Scott come into play? That was always interesting to me as a listener. And when you kind of dig deeper through documentaries or, YouTube videos or behind the scenes stuff, there was a lot of times where I would find out that like a part that Tom sang or performed or whatever was actually written by Mark. That probably doesn't surprise you because I know your feelings on the situation. But I just meant like, just from a listener, like, oh, okay, so just because you sing it or perform it doesn't necessarily mean that you were the one that wrote it. There's a collaboration aspect. Hearing Mark and Tom both say things like, well, actually Travis wrote that part or had a huge influence on the melodies of that part. You're like, oh, you don't necessarily always think that right away. You're like, oh, the person that sang it wrote it.
It is the sole contributor. Yeah, I mean, I think what I've seen, I don't know if like Blink is the best example. The silos, so to speak, exist in like the beginning stages of some of these bands we look up to, and as their career progresses, it changes. And
Good point.
I think it is probably the impetus for that is like, more complex than just saying like we trust each other more. Like I'm sure that's a part of it, but I think like it's a part of pushing yourself too. You get bored with your own shit. Like, you know, sometimes like there's definitely the reality of two cooks in the kitchen can yield bad results or whatever. But sometimes if you're like trying to work on this math problem or whatever, and you're like, I can't fucking solve this. I've tried it 50 different ways. And sometimes you do need an outside source to be like, well, what if you tried this? And then boom, you got your answer, So again, yeah, I think that's probably what happened here is like there's less of this notion of like, dude, I wrote the best song ever. Like, wait till you hear this, man. Like, no, there wasn't any of that. It was just like one of us came to like the space with a cool melody or whatever, and I would hear it and be like, yo, dude, that is awesome. Like those lyrics are great. Change the progression or change the mode or whatever, or like don't fucking palm mute that part. That's boring. And then they would try it. I'd be like, oh my God, you're so right. That sounds way better. And like my shit too. And what's really cool and semi unrelated to what you asked is, I don't think it's any surprise that I'm really not super like eloquent or articulate or intelligent or whatever the adjective you want to use is when it comes to writing lyrics half the time. And so, especially with this release, like, I'd be like, hey man, this is what the song's about. Like, I got a couple lines. Can you just send me a template? And he'll, text me something and be like, all right, here's my word vomit. And most of which is unusable, not because it's like bad. It's just like syllabically,
Sure.
Rhyme scheme. None of it works, but I'll pull something from it. I'll be like, this is the best shit ever. I'm going to like expound upon this. And then before you know it, like there's this, email chain or whatever of like version A, B, C, D, E. And we finally got it. Perfect because we keep like proofreading each other's work. So I think that was honestly my favorite part about writing the new songs was because it really was like this constant inspiration of like, yes. Once we finally found like the semblance of what the answer might be, that's when like the fun started happening.
I think you make a good point, and that collaboration matters. It really does, and I feel this way. I can go on for hours about what I'm about to say. Everyone's a fucking producer these days. Oh, I'm a producer. I'm a producer. Blah 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 blah. Okay, what the fuck does that even mean? When I look back to the bands that I was in which I did fit that role too of like, Peter records it, it's free or cheaper or whatever because Peter knows how to use Pro Tools vaguely. I regret all of that, may I add. I absolutely do. Every time, every record should have went to somebody else. Now, part of the reason, not only budgetary reasons, but I've also been burned several times. But when I look back at the reasons I've been burned, it was really the band's fault. It wasn't the producer's fault. Because the producer gets blamed for, absolutely fucking everything. Snare sounds like shit. Producer's fault. Guitar tone, dog shit. Oh man, those strings bending on the guitar that the producer didn't play, fucking producer's fault. Dog shit. Like, the producer is blamed for everything.
Well, from the artist
perspective.
Consumer, it's just that band sucks.
Yeah, consumer, it's just bad. Yeah, but from the artist perspective, it's, it wasn't me. I didn't bend the guitar string that bent. It was the producer's fault. It was Pro Tools.
Or you shame on them. You could have presented me in a different light that made it not so noticeable, kind of thing.
Sure.
Which sometimes there is validity to, but yeah. Oftentimes it's you can only work with what you're given.
Exactly. I would. We're on different sides of the table. I would say there's a lot of cleaning up that is given to, and look.
Let me elaborate on what I just said.
Sure.
There might be this notion of like, hey, you could have maybe presented this a little bit differently to detract from XYZ that I'm unhappy with. And oftentimes the response is, yeah, homie, that's true, but you should have seen the previous version. You know what I mean?
That's true. A lot of times the goal is to not make you quit.
Yeah.
I don't think it is a a producer's job to make you want to choose a different. I remember, like in college, I was really considering a PhD in philosophy, and I remember sitting down with my advisor, and he's like, "Is there anything else you could do with your life?" And I took it really personally, and I did
Your
really
advisor
well.
for college? What is
Yeah.
They just want to take your money.
Yeah, that's true too, but maybe this particular person was a little bit more ethical, I would say, than that. And I took it personally at the time because I was like, I have really good fucking grades, man. Like you're the hardest person to get an A from, and I got a fucking A from you. Why are you asking me this question?
Oh wait, the advisor or the professor? I'm sorry.
Well, he was.
This is
The
important.
advisors were the professors at Clemson, at least. So,
Okay.
like, my advisor was a philosophy professor. He was actually one of the more well-known professors at Clemson from a philosophy perspective, whatever that means to the community. I remember saying to him, I was like, "Hey, this is like I'm doing really well. I'm really enjoying this work for whatever the 19-year-old brain, 20-year-old brain that I had at the time." And I said, I was like, I could see myself.
He's saying learn from my mistakes is what he's telling you.
No, what he was actually saying was learn from the statistics, because who fuck wakes up and says I'm going to be a philosopher? How many philosophy positions are open? How many schools are there out there? If you don't get funded, are you willing to go into debt? I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. I thought he was saying you're stupid. You shouldn't do this. And I'm like, how is that possible? I got an A in your class, and you're the guy that doesn't give A's. So I feel that conversation comes to life for me a lot because I feel that way with a lot of the bands that I work with, not only currently, but in the past. When I ran a studio, like a real studio, now, I have a studio, but it's mostly designed for our label, right? I produce a lot of the bands on our label. But it's not that I think you suck. It's just I think that this was the best way to bring what you were making to the table. And ultimately, if you don't trust me, that's a different story. A lot of people take this shit personally, and I get it. It's their art, right? And I'm that way too. Like, hey, when you give me mix notes, sometimes I'm like, damn, you don't like me very much. Like I'm sensitive too about my art because that's my art in the process, right? I'm bringing this songs to life. I'm the one that's moving the knobs. But I think the important thing is you have to trust the people you're working with, and if you don't, you probably shouldn't work with them. I think that's a pretty fair, logical thing. You can deduce that into relationships, anything, employers. If you don't trust the person, doesn't mean you always have to agree with them. Trust doesn't always equal acceptance or agreement, but there is a mutual level of understanding and respect. You know this better than most. When I say, hey, give me option B, it doesn't mean option A is going away. It means I want you to pressure test yourself. I want you to hold yourself accountable. Bring me option B so that you know option A. What did Brian Fallon say, right? Write the song 7 times, write the bad shit out. I mean, he's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong. And I think, for this specific thing you're talking about, it's like absolutely the right way. Now, sometimes I do think there are exceptions where sometimes when you know, and that doesn't always come from like the artist either. Sometimes like a producer hears something and says like, dude, you cannot abandon that thing you just did. And the artist is like, I don't know. It's like, no, dude, you got to trust me. So I sort of have adopted this principle of like, I don't care how I get there as long as I get there. If I got to write something 7 times, sure. But like, if I wrote this once and everyone's on board and no one's questioning with it, like that works too,
Yeah, and that really brings it full circle to the point I was initially trying to make, which was, when I was making the joke, like, oh, everyone's a producer, oh, so like you worked on your songs together, you tried different structures, you changed this, you told this person to rewrite lyrics, you did. Oh, welcome to songwriting. Welcome to being in a fucking band. That doesn't mean you're a producer. Every band produces their own songs. You write them together. You try different things. You sit in the practice space and you argue and you hate each other. Sometimes it goes really well. Sometimes it doesn't. You tell the drummer to do this pattern. The drummer says fuck off. Like that's part of the process. This word producer has just become this ambiguous, like everyone can do it thing. And I think that takes away from how hard it is to be the outsider coming into a project and wanting to help that band. I'm pro producer is what I'm saying. I know how hard it is, especially at this DIY unsigned level, to kind of come in as the outsider and try to voice your opinion. The band just be like,
the band's saying,
and
well,
hey,
what the fuck
let's just be honest. You and I are like best friends, dude. We didn't have the easiest start working together. It is definitely improved on both ends. We are both to
Sure.
blame in that sense.
I would argue that is maybe a byproduct of personal circumstance than the artistic process.
That's like, I would agree.
Yeah. But, there are bands where that's not the case, and it's totally ego-driven and, fear-driven, and that dictates the relationship and ultimately the art they end up putting out,
Yeah, no, and that's fair. So it's a tough process, and you guys have gone through it now several times with me. Both you the most, obviously. Dave and Ollie through 2 records. But I'm proud of you guys. I love the new record. I think you guys did a great job. You brought me really, really strong demos. A lot of what was on those demos made it on the record, and I'm really proud of the way it sounds and how it came out. A lot of work went into it, as with any project, but I think it was really fun. What's your favorite song on the record?
I think it changes all the time. I don't listen to the record on repeat as much as I did when we finally said all right, these are the masters, and
me
we're
too.
done.
Yeah.
Just because you get burnt out on stuff, and you don't want to get really burnt out on it when you don't even give a fuck that the record's out. So yeah, not what you asked at all. Right now, I would probably say it's a tie between a song called The Apiarist and a song called Munchausen by Praxis. I think those are the 2 that are speaking to me the most at this moment in time, which is fucking hilarious.
I did not expect you to say that.
I hated the former for a long time. I was like, this is butt rock. What the fuck is this doing on this record? This sucks. This is more of the same bullshit I pulled for the last 5 years. I don't even know why.
I'm so glad you're saying this, because you gave me so much hell over that song, and I'm like, it is going to be printed on the internet that at this time.
But
yeah, go ahead.
A month or 2, I was listening to it, and I was like, this song's not half bad. This is all right.
I thought it was really important to have that song. I call it Nathan still. My wife calls it Nathan, in case you're wondering. I still think Nathan was the right answer, but artistic, vision. It's okay.
Sure.
I'm fucking with you. I really thought it was important to have that be the first song on the record. And I really appreciate you as my friend trusting me with that, because I don't believe you really felt the same way. But this is one of those situations, and not that necessarily a producer will always have I happen to work with you in a bigger capacity than just producer from a record label perspective. So we're talking about things that maybe a traditional producer wouldn't get involved in, or unless asked in certain circumstances. But that song, it speaks about something that I think people really needed to hear. And I could be so fucking wrong about this. Records still matter to me. The sequencing of a record still matters to me. How it makes you feel and the journey you go on as a listener, it really fucking matters to me. It matters to 59X Records. And with everything that's happened, pandemic, all this shit, when you turn that song on and you hear the first few lines of what you say, and you say it, and we worked on this, right? It's an angsty, mid-yell singing kind of thing. There's raspiness in your voice. I think that sets the stage to every fucking thing that is to come on that record. And for me as the listener, it really, really connected with me. And that is an approach I take to producing, is how does this song make me feel? Now, I know that's subjective, because what Peter's going through is different, what Andrew's going through, what Dave's going through, what Amy's going through, Craig and whomever. But I know that there are some themes based on just sort of the global temperature, things that are happening current event-wise that matter, and that one just fucking spoke to me, man. Like, there was just this angsty, the when you bring up the money situation, like, who the fuck is happy right now? Besides the obvious. And that song just brought that to life. Even the Pony Boy reference, I don't know if that was intentional. The Outsiders reference.
I mean...
But it brought back it made me feel like, holy fuck, like, this is kind of I'm connecting to this through multiple generations. Like, who the fuck reads The Outsiders anymore? Is that even I don't even know if they teach that
it's
shit
weird
anymore.
because I feel like I don't know if this will be translated to the 3 people that care about our band and the one person of those 3 people that would even know. But like that, I think was a subconscious, like, this is again irrelevant to the larger conversation at hand, but it was like a fuck you to all the pop punk bands that use like our gold won't, like nothing gold can stay kind of thing. I feel like that at one period in time was a really like popular trope in pop
Newfound
punk.
Glory gets a pass
And
on that though. They're fucking Newfound Glory.
Well, maybe, and you could make the argument that they were the first band to do it. You know, that wasn't really a shot at them, but I feel like I've heard that a lot in the same way that we hear nautical references about ships, and I'm sure I'm guilty of using that a time or two myself. The point
radio,
is,
right? Radio,
right? Yeah, radio. Yeah, well, yeah, I do. I'm trying to think before I talk shit about that if I've used radio a lot in my songs. I don't know if I've said that. Anyway, point being, me saying that was actually a fuck you to all that. Like, I say the line or whatever, but I try to say what a shame as, I don't know, just like a negative like attitude about that whole thing. And I don't really know where that Puzzle Piece fits into the larger song. But again, I appreciate you being the only person that noticed that that's in the lyrics, because I think it's funny.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just felt I could be so wrong about this, and I don't even care if I am, because when I got the test presses and I put them on, this record's cut to 45 RPM. It sounds so fucking good on vinyl. I was really impressed with the test presses. Not that I let you guys listen to them, but it just, having that come on, having that guitar part. We layered that traditional Vox tone with the acoustic. I thought that was really cool, and just having it hit you right in the head or face or whatever you want to call it, and have you immediately start singing and saying those lines specifically. You know, can I sleep on your floor? You know, I don't have any money. It just spoke to me like, fuck, we're all going through something in this time. This pandemic fucking ruined everything. I think people need to hear this. And that's why it had to be the first song to me. I don't even care. You know, I've had some people.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
You know,
no, I appreciate that, man. This is what I'll say. Like, and you also have to keep in mind that, like, I probably have not appreciated a release, from a, front to back perspective in probably about 10 years, because it's become increasingly less important to me over time. I don't know why.
You're not wrong, dude.
Chalk it up to streaming.
Yeah, they forced that.
Whatever. I will say this. Initially, when you asked my 2 cents about this track listing, and I still maintain the fact that because of my opinions about, albums, like, I don't give a fuck about track listing, but I did think, if we're going to have an opener like that one, really? But after listening to the record from track 1 to track 8, and I know you might have your qualms about some of the other songs, like, it was the right choice. That's the hill I'm going to die on. The ones from that song to the end, everything sequentially really fit. And I do agree that it really didn't make any other sense to open the record with another song besides that one.
I agree. And I appreciate what you said, because a lot of people won't get it, but those that do are going to be like, I fucking get it. And that's why I still run a record, whatever the fuck you call it. This record label.
An incubator.
Yeah, and again, thoughts on a failing incubator. Yeah, no. That's fucking horrifying. You're so right. And that matters to me. It matters to Amy too. And that's why Amy is a very valuable partner in this crazy shit, because I don't want to. I always wanted to run a label that brought the things from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and translate it and fine tune it for the modern world. Singles. There's one person in mind who I'm thinking of. I'm not going to say his name just because he's a dear friend of mine, and we can agree to disagree on this. But singles, anyone could pick out a fucking single, at our level is what I'm saying. Like, just because you have a track listing a certain way doesn't mean it's not the first song people are going to hear, the second song or whatever. it was really important to me that and selfishly for me, because maybe I'm the only one that buys the fucking record. I hope not, but maybe I'm the only one that buys the record. Pre-order now. I think that people will get why we really wanted that song to be first. If you think about everything that's happened the past 2-3 years, even going further back than that, the things that have happened in 08, 09, the confusion through the prior administration and everything that's happening. I think that really represented how a lot of people feel about themselves, the world, and it's not an uncommon question. Because it's a question. The statement that is said at the beginning of the record is actually a question. And then the second sentence is a statement. So I think that people will get maybe why I'm crazy and that spoke to me so much. But I appreciate you mentioning those two songs. So Munchausen, I like all the songs. Munchausen was always a standout for me from the beginning. We just shot a video for that song. Well, Andrew's editing it.
Well,
I shot it.
We shot a video, whether or not that video's released.
We shot footage of something.
Yeah. We shot a video.
A camera was there. Lights were present. There were bodies. What happened is... It's not the equivalent.
Leave Dropbox is all we're saying.
It might be a Dropbox exclusive.
Yeah, shared between.
This is not a Tommy
Dropbox
and
users.
Pam situation or anything like that. This might be a Dropbox exclusive. Venmo me, you know, $5,000 and you get it.
Yeah, we could start an OnlyFans.
But we attempted some sort of visualizer.
Yeah.
So Munchausen, definitely a song that I knew for early on was going to be a favorite for me. You kind of you check all the boxes for the things I like, and I think I praised your songwriting because I really think the halftime, kind of the change there was just brilliant.
This overwhelming sense of crisis holds me like a drug.
Yeah, man, all like the groove like dynamic kind of shifts in that was just like my impersonation of my favorite band, and we don't really have to go into that that much
right.
to save me some embarrassment.
I did listen to the record, one of their records earlier to get started. What do you think my favorite record is of your favorite band? Is my question.
That is tough. It could very well be my favorite record, which is Metropole. I don't know, dude. I really don't know.
That one is so good, man. It is so good. There's nothing you could find wrong about that record.
We should edit this out, though, because I don't need any more flack for ripping that band off.
I actually thought you were gonna say Gaslight.
Oh, okay. Well, let's be clear. I have a lot of favorite bands, so
yeah. No, I mean, okay. To the Lawrence Arms are an amazing band. Metropole is definitely one of my favorite records. I've been exploring their earlier years. Ghost Stories has really spoken to me. It's just interesting to see how that band has progressed throughout their history. And their newest record, I really enjoy it too. But yeah. I would agree with you that I jump between either The Greatest Story Ever Told or Metropole as kind of my favorite Lawrence Arms records.
Yep. And you can do that with like all of our heroes, right? There's like two like mission statements that almost all of them have, and it's like, fuck, like you have so many good records, we can narrow it down to this too. And it really just depends on what side of the bed I wake up on as to which one's my favorite. Now,
back to my point about Gaslight, and I will make a statement, and we don't have to talk about it because I know it will call it this. We're already at 53 minutes. So this.
Shit! So like 15. This is fun.
Yeah, first podcast could be 2 hours.
Yeah.
Get Hurt is the greatest fucking Gaslight Anthem record ever created. I love that record. It is brilliant from start to finish, and I will argue anyone that disagrees with me. It is brilliant from start to finish. The best Gaslight Anthem record is Get Hurt. Done.
Okay. Do you need me for that, or am I just moving on?
We can just move on. It's okay.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I don't have to say anything.
I love all of their albums, literally. But
this is the one thing I will say to you, and I've been meaning to tell you this. You and I have been so fucking busy that we don't talk on a like hourly basis anymore.
We used
to. Dude, shit's crazy right now. But anyway,
right.
point is, I don't agree with your thesis of everything you just said, but I have revisited that record recently. And see, I would go as far as to say that the reason why you love that one the most is because it brings you back to a time period that you were dealing with something significant, right? That's the same.
1,000%
So
correct.
that's the reason I feel the way I do about my favorite record of theirs, or insert any band, because it has to do with your entry point. Like, oh fuck,
So
okay,
true.
I really got into this band at this period, and I was going through a breakup or a shitty job or whatever at this period of time. So therefore, this record's the best. The reason why I love Get Hurt so much is because I feel like I'm living that record now, if that makes any sense.
Oh,
I
God.
look
Yeah.
to previous releases fondly, but what he's singing about now, and sort of everything about the record, sonically, lyrically, blah, 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 I'm like, oh, I relate to this way more now than I did when it, like, first was released or whatever, you know?
You are dead on, because everything you just said is what I would have told you when that record came out. It was when I listened to that record, I was like, holy shit, it's like he knew me and what was happening in my life and what I was dealing with personally, professionally. I'd even make the argument spiritually, not in the way that you think, because you know what my spiritual beliefs are, but to categorize that generally, I would use the word spiritual.
On a visceral level, you relate to the record, and who knows, in 10 years, I'm going to be the one calling you saying, like, yeah, dude, Get Hurt's the best one.
And that was it. I mean, dude, don't get me wrong.
It's going to bring me back to this conversation.
59 Sound, like, great fucking record, handwritten. I mean, holy shit. I mean, the band's great. We can't there's no argument against that. But you make a good point that, and this ties back to why I think Nathan or the Apirist was the right answer to be the first record, because that song spoke to me in a way where I was like, right here, right now, I can't control fucking shit, but what I can control is this, like what's right in front of me. And that song spoke to me in the way Get Hurt did. And that created years of just loyalty to that body of work. And there's songs, I mean, it's not even just the record, it's even the whatever, I don't know if they're B-sides or whatever, but stuff that they threw on the deluxe version that you can't even really like listen to unless you bought the record on iTunes or like,
which is a shame, because some of those deluxe songs are really
like
the best
Have
ones.
Mercy, like I cry when I hear that song. Like I was going through so much shit when that song came out, and I was like, holy fuck, like Brian Fallon doesn't know who I am. Likely will never know who I am. Very likely will never know who I am. And it was like he did know me. And that's the power of songwriting. And I think there are moments on this record, the Carolyn record, Rhythm of My Own Decay, and I tried to bring those out because I feel like there are moments there, even me as a producer being like, not really for me, mostly more to some of the Ollie situations, like not something I've experienced. But I'm like, someone has experienced this. So for me, Munchausen, definitely a favorite. And I think not only based on the shit we had to do to the song, but
sorry, it's just funny.
Webs. I cannot wait for people to hear Webs. I know it can't be performed live.
I don't mean to groan at that one. That one actually, again, falls into the category of like hated it during the whole like even from demo to like master, I was like, this sucks. But
dude, that chorus,
after I've had some space, I'm like, it's kind of cool.
It's interesting, and you have your slowest, most indie song on this record, and you have your most aggressive, more punky song on this record. You really hit and it's done in 16 minutes. So there's an angsty punk like, hey, I don't want to extend my welcome here. I'm going to give you mentioned butt rock, more rocky songs, more punk rock songs. There's some indie songs on here. There's more indie punk traditional stuff. A lot of different song structures. But overall, just a really simple record so like I'd say this, like, when Brian Fallon put out his latest record, Local Honey, fantastic record. I read an interview, and I I think this is true. Like, I want to not state this as objective fact. I'm fairly certain that there was an interview in which he said, this is the record that you put on after the show, or something like that. He said something like that. Like, when you come home from the show,
it's the record that calms you down.
You put this record on when you're having your nightcap. He didn't say nightcap, but like, that's what I imagine. Like, you're home from the show, you're hyped, you're excited, the adrenaline's still rushing, you're chilling out. Maybe you took a shower and you're relaxing now or whatever. You're drinking whatever. You put this record on to kind of decompress down to end your day. I feel like this new record is the record you put on to start the night.
Well, that's very nice of you to say.
It's not the record like when you're working out, you have your warm up and then you have your period of your heart rate's really elevated. You're going. You're burning the most calories. You're getting the most cardiac, benefit, the best cardio, whatever benefit. Then you have your what is it called? Like cool down. Local Honey was the cool down. I think this record is the warm up. And I think people will recognize that. And that's not that either. Well, I'm sorry that I'm comparing you to Brian Fallon. No disrespect to Brian in this case.
Yeah, it shouldn't even be in the same conversation.
But I'm saying the kind of philosophy of a record is what I'm getting at.
Sure.
That this is very much hey, you're getting ready for the night. You're done with work. You're done with school, whatever. This is the record you throw on, put it on 45 RPM, 16 minutes while you're waiting for your fucking Uber or Lyft or whatever. And you leave being like, fuck yeah, let's have a good night. Now, and it's not a party record, but you kind of go through a whole range of emotions on this record that leaves the listener like, I'm going to be okay. Like, I'm not the only fucking person in this world that feels this way. And this band kind of helped me realize that. Like, this record kind of speaks to relationships, financial, mental distress, confidence. There's all these different types of themes. Ollie brings up parties, drugs at times. like there's a lot of metaphors. There's a lot of stuff on this record that I think kind of gets someone to say at the end, like, okay, I'm not fucking crazy. They kind of hit this emotional spectrum. I'm gonna be okay. Let's have a good night. Maybe don't take life so fucking seriously all the time.
Well, that's the thing. If there's, again, man, like some of this stuff, it would, if I were to really comment on it or just say this is what the songs are and this is what everything means, it would, again, it would be wrong because sometimes you just write. Whatever comes out is what comes out. It's all very much a subconscious thing. It's almost like you feel like a conduit for something else. But I think if I were to reflect back on like the whole, again, ethos or mission statement of the record is maybe it's not okay to keep making the same mistakes. Like once you're like cognizant of them, but like Ollie's line, I fucked it up with only myself to blame. Like acknowledging that is like important. That's what the mission's like. You know what? I did fuck everything up, and a lot of shit is my fault. But you know what? That's okay, because that's called being a human being, and you learn from it, or you don't, because it doesn't matter, because we're all getting drafted anyway. But you just move on, man. We're just doing things and farting around on this godforsaken rock, so to speak.
Waiting for our impending doom.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what it is, man. It's just like okay. The first two, if I can be pretentious, smell my own farts guy for a second, the first two records are about like maybe fighting that a little bit in the woe is me and like shit is happening to me. This record is like, nah, motherfucker, you created this shit, and you know what? Just learn from it. Move on.
Yeah, man. I don't disagree with you. I think there was a lot of thought, and I hope you guys know this, that like I really tried. I really, really tried, and not that I don't for every band. I really do, and what our culture is like here at 59X. You've been here since day one. You've seen the darkest.
First band.
Yeah, first band. You've seen me at my lowest. You've seen me at my highest, literally. It was really important to me that this record felt authentic. This is a Vox AC30, well AC15 in your case, Telecaster
Too poor.
record. This is a we didn't go crazy. There's not 10,000 fucking layers. We debated how much processing was needed. This is the band. Yeah, there's cuts and duplicates and shit like that, as with any band.
To make it, I mean, we gotta make it palatable,
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, there's Melodyne. Yeah,
I'll say this shit. Very few restaurants you're going to aren't using salt. I mean,
exactly. There's
let's
salt and
just call it
pepper on this record. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool.
Well, yeah.
It's cool. A little olive oil on the steak here, but I mean, it is your band, and
or
thank you.
crutch, depending on
thank you
however
for
you
letting
wanna-
me kind of do my thing with it. Because I know we there were some moments where I'm like, fuck. But like you did trust me to kind of let me go through my process, and I was more transparent with you than I am with most bands about, when you're done recording, that's when my insecurity starts, right? Because I'm bringing this shit to life. I'm mixing it. I'm trying different things. I'm trying to salvage dog shit. I'm trying to amplify great things, and you did let me work through that in a very transparent way, and I appreciate that, not only as a friend but as an artist to artist kind of thing. And it was important to me that we got the vinyl. We don't have it. We don't know when the fuck we're gonna have it, but hopefully, please pre-order the record now.
Yeah,
so that
for
American
real.
Express does not sue us.
Doesn't shut this label and this band down. I would really, really appreciate that for all three of you that care.
The vinyl shortages are real. Please pre-order this record now. You have no idea. Even if you're my friend, you have no idea what you would be doing if you please pre-order this record now.
You literally have no idea.
You have no idea.
Literally, you have no idea how valuable that is.
But you had a photo for it. I liked it. It made sense.
He's probably going to be one of the few people that listen to this. Shout out Hunter. Thank you so much for always doing shit for free for this
love
band.
You, Hunter, I miss you, man. I haven't spoken
Taking
to you in
pictures.
like 4 years, but it's cool. You should call me. It's all right. You bought like 5 of the first LP. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Seriously,
you're a good person. So the record, it'll be on vinyl. We got some short running cassettes. We got CDs. We're checking all the boxes here for anyone, regardless of what format you have. Comes out June 10th. Rhythm of My Own Decay. 59X Records here in the U.S. Gunner Records in the EU, German record label. Thank you, Gunner. Gunner's been fucking fantastic. Really excited to be working with Gunner on this record. Thank you, Gunner. Psyched for people to hear this record. We got a video out, 99 Problems, 0 Caveats. That's how you say it, right? I don't even
correct, Mundo.
You guys shot that up on your way to Knoxville. That's a little pour there.
Oh shit! You hear this? I'm actually not pissing. I'm not pissing. I'm drinking wine.
Sorry, I had a little thing there that gets edited out because of Pro Tools, because I'm a producer. So, couple things here as we kind of close out here. To be a real podcast, allegedly you have to have segments
or lightning rounds of this sort.
Yeah,
okay.
I got to appeal to the mass audience. So, the first segment here, there was like 7 things that I wanted to talk to you about today that I didn't even bring up. But I appreciate it. There's episodes coming in case, unless I pull another. Hey, once every 3, we'll be the podcast that publishes an episode
updates once every 3 years. It's super exclusive.
So, this segment is called "Being in Music is Expensive as Fuck." So,
true.
Unlimited
is this
budget.
Just a ploy to make me feel bad.
a little bit. Unlimited budget. What piece of gear would you buy and why?
Single piece of gear.
Single. One item.
I'm going to say any of those Dumble amps that are in working condition, because those are the coveted amps. I just feel like I have to say that.
It was a question for you, so I mean, you could say what you want.
Yeah. I mean, what do those amps cost? Like $250,000, something like that?
Yeah, I probably should change the question to like realistic. No, I'm kidding.
You said unlimited budget.
I know, I did. It's my fault. I'm not denying that. All right, so what? No, that's fair. You should answer the question that way. So,
well, okay. Are you really, when you ask this question, are you saying what is your favorite gear?
No. That's my next question. That's my next question. But what is your favorite piece of gear that you currently own?
I mean, my God. on my head, I'm just gonna say my Les Paul Jr. That's the one that I'm going to the grave with. I just love it, and I never play it out for that reason. That is my baseball card guitar, if you will.
No, that makes sense. That's why I asked the question.
Love it.
That's fair. That's good. All right. So next segment is say something nice about your band members. So
Okay.
let's start.
I saw a lot of nice things.
Let's start with Oliver, Mr. Ollie. Say something nice about Ollie.
I could say a lot of nice things about Oliver. He, as per our zine, wouldn't do the same for me. But yeah, like I think he's super super funny dude, and I love his songs. And I don't know, I relate to very few people as much as I relate to Ollie. Really, yeah, I have a lot of nice things to say.
All right, David Malazzi.
Dave, I'll say, has this very unique ability to go through super, super dark shit and still maintain this sense of like, yeah, whatever, dude, fuck it. Life is still kind of funny. And to the point where it's like almost unrealistic. But, I do think, especially like considering what everyone is going through right now, like that's actually admirable. So I'm gonna give some props to him on that.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to just be like, yeah, the world's burning, but fuck it, let's
yeah,
live,
exactly. That is it. But again, dude, it just is hard to like unpack. Yeah, I know you're not saying unpack your bandmates' personalities, but like say a nice thing about Dave. Well, that's kind of difficult because like, say a nice thing about your sister. Well, you're your fucking sister. I've known Dave since like 2006, 2005. Like, it's like, what do you mean by that question? I know what you mean. I'm saying like, yeah, like these dudes aren't friends as trite as it sounds. They really are like my fucking family.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, dude. I get it. Okay, so favorite local band. I don't have a title for this fucking segment because I'm not really a fucking podcast producer. I'm a vaguely purposed, I think two bands matter, and trying to put out records by bands in the U.S. that don't have any fucking fans. So what's your favorite local band in
Atlanta? That's the title of the episode, let's say. In Atlanta specifically. Dude, that's a tough one too, because like all my homies' bands are all my favorite bands. I feel like I really can't just
not related to 59X though. Like who's a band in Atlanta right now that isn't related to our label that you want published on the internet in this podcast?
Response though. I mean, like New Junk City, they're our brothers. Like they're literally one of my favorite bands ever. But dude, there's so many fucking good bands. Spray Tan, awesome. Same situation. Seagulls is great. I could go on and on. I mean, there's the first three that come to my head, but yeah, lucky in that sense. Like all those bands fucking.
Yeah, no, all those fucking bands are awesome. That's a great point. So look, new record, man. Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time with us. This has been fun. We're way over my time. Not that it fucking matters, but I appreciate you rolling through it with me. New record's coming out June 10th. Rhythm of My Own Decay. 99 Problems, Zero Caveats. Out now. We have a pre-order live, vinyl, cassette, CD, some bundle stuff. Gunner Records has the record pre-ordered for Germany, EU, for the whole European Union. Buy it from Gunner, gunnerrecords.com, 59xrecords.com for the US. Dude, this is exciting. We got cool shit.
Yeah, thank you so much for everything invested in this band, both monetarily, both serotonin-wise.
Serotonin.
The years you've taken off. Really, really, really appreciate it.
No, man,
the band would not have gotten this far.
I appreciate that very much. You got some cool shit going on. Excited about this new record. Excited for people to hear it. It's going to be an interesting year. We don't know what's going to happen, but we'll see.
Yeah, no shit.
There's some things I'm not saying specifically for that reason, like where we're going or where like what you have on the books, because who the fuck knows what 6 weeks from now will look like. But I'm proud of you guys. It's a good record. I'm excited to see people's reaction and get these. We got purple, we got white, we got random color coming in. We got some cool white cassettes that look cool. Some CDs for those that like CDs. So
tapes. Yeah, like you said. Sorry, I just realized cassettes also means tapes because I'm educated.
That's okay. You know, you're gonna be you're a scientist now. That's fucking horrifying.
Yeah, very true.
No, but hey, I appreciate it. So we'll close this out. I'm gonna play a song. It's not gonna be a Carolyn song because why would I do that? We'll play a song here. What song do you want to play? It's got to be from a 59X band since I'm legally allowed to do that. What song from a 59X band should we close this first episode of the reemergence of the podcast? Andrew from the Carolyn, what song?
Oh, dude, you're doing this to me. I'm gonna say "Disappear" by Rough Dreams.
Good choice. Disappear, Rough Dreams, off the new record, Disappear, Reappear. You can also get their vinyl. Supposed to be shipping here in March. We've waited forever. The band's been super patient. Fucking vinyl delays suck. Support Rough Dreams, Knoxville, Tennessee. Thank you, Andrew. This was fun, man.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah, keep doing your thing. We'll talk soon.
All right, bye.
All right, later.